Good night, one and all. I am Christ, I am disciple. Grace and peace be to everybody out there. And we have something for you guys, which you should enjoy. This is going to be a stream in which, one, you can always donate to my channel via PayPal. The link is in the chat area. It's also in the description, I believe, but I'm just putting it up there so you guys can see. So just go into the chat area and you should be able to see the link to this stream. Okay, so in that link, you will see the link to where you can donate, because my channel is a channel in which I do not get money from YouTube. Okay, so through your donations, I actually get money. As you can see from the topic, we're looking at Rebel Moon, we're looking at Free Palestine, and we're also looking at Zack Snyder's Justice League and IMAX. And we're going to go into this pretty quickly. If you so wish, as a guest, you can come on here. You can always leave your comments in the chat, but you can also come on here as a guest. And I just put up the link. The link is also in the chat. As with all my videos, it has a format, so let's get into it. The format begins first and foremost, because this is my first video of the day when it comes to Christ I Am Disciple, which is my name. So as Christ I Am Disciple, I'm going to do as my first video today, it will involve scripture. After that, we're going to look at Rebel Moon. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at Rebel Moon. And I just used one of the quotes from Rebel Moon. For all that you love, show them no mercy. But we're going to talk about updates of Rebel Moon. We're going to look at also quotes from Rebel Moon, and we'll look at Rebel Moon's relevance. Also, we'll talk about a number of other things concerning Rebel Moon, which I will list a little bit later. The other topic, of course, is Free Palestine. So we'll be looking at that, and we'll be going to some things concerning that. And we'll talk about possible solutions. We'll talk about many different things concerning this topic, which is a very important topic. And then we will be looking at Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX. And tomorrow is November the 17th, so we will discuss that in a little bit more detail, what we are going to be proceeding to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX. So you guys know now what the program is. Once again, if you want to join here and chop it up with me, I'm always happy. I'm always game for somebody to come in and join, chop it up with me. I would be very happy if you do so. So I am Christ, I am Disciple. And we're going to begin with some scripture. Okay? I'm going to begin with some scripture. But first, before I get into all of that, I just want to welcome everybody who's watching it tonight. Our stream is right now a little bit delayed. We started the stream a little bit later than normal because my internet went for some reason. So I didn't have internet here. So as soon as the internet came back, which was just a couple minutes ago, I was able to do it. So I'm 30 minutes late. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for the stream being a little later than usual. But other than that, I just hope that you will still chime in. I know it's very late in the night, so some of you guys just came from work, whatever. But those of you who do, don't forget to hit the like button and show me some love. If you want to donate to the channel, again, there's the PayPal. And if you want to, you can join. I have the links in the chat. So if you want to join as a guest and chop it up with me, we're going to be talking about three major topics. It's Rebel Moon, it's Free Palestine, and it's also Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX. So let's get to it. Start off with a piece of scripture. That's what you need. Not what you need, sorry. I'm Christ I Am Disciple. This is what Christ I Am, what you need is my other channel. This is what Christ I Am Disciple usually does. So we're going to get into it. All right, scripture today comes from Genesis chapter 20. 20, a piece of it from chapter 21. And also, it also comes from Genesis 20, 26, I believe. Okay? So let's get into it. Genesis chapter 20. I'm going to read I'm going to read a little bit of Genesis chapter 20, not a whole lot, but I'm going to read and I'm going to mention some places, and those places may come back a little bit later on in this video for people to know about it, okay? But the most important part of Genesis chapter 20 is this. So I'm just going to summarize because it's long. Basically, Abraham went into the land between Negev and sorry, he moved south towards Negev. My bad. But he settled between Kadesh and Shur at a place called Gerar. Okay, and when he settled into that region, which is part of Palestine, the king of Palestine, whose name was Abimelech, greeted him. And anybody in Palestine who greeted him, he didn't say that Sarah was his wife. He said it was his sister. So as a result of that, when Abimelech heard that Sarah was Abraham's sister, yes, he took her because she was pretty, she was very beautiful. Even at the age of 90, she was about 90 at the time. And so anyway, he was going to have her as one of his wives. But God intercepted him in a dream, told him that Sarah was Abraham's wife. And on finding out that, he confronted Abraham. I'm going to pick it up from there. So Abraham said in verse 11, I figured this would be a godless place, and they will want my wife and will kill me to get her. Besides, she is my sister. We both have the same father, though different mothers, and I married her. When God sent me to travel far from my father's home, I told her, wherever we go, have the kindness to say that you are my sister. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and servants, both men and women, and gave them to Abraham. And he returned his wife Sarah to him. He said, look over my kingdom and choose a place where you want to live. Then he turned to Sarah and he said, look, I'm giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver to compensate for my embarrassment or any embarrassment that I may have caused you. This will settle any claim against me in this matter. Right? So Abraham then prayed to the Lord because Abimelech, his wife, his children, and his whole entire household became barren as a result of him taking Sarah. And the Lord reversed the effects on him. And later on, in chapter 21, Abimelech returns to Abraham in the land of the Philistines, or Palestine, with his army commander, Phicol. And he makes an agreement with Abraham. He makes a pact with him. And he said, we want to have peace. It's like a peace agreement. So they had a peace agreement because Abraham, he was prospering so well and he was becoming more and more wealthy. So Abraham gave him a gift. So I'm going to take it up from there. Abraham replied, he gave King Abimelech 7 additional lambs. He gave him cattle and sheep. And then he gave him 7 additional ewe lambs and set them off by themselves. And Abimelech said, why are you doing that? And he said, they are my gift to you as a public confirmation that I dug this well. It was in Beersheba. So ever since, the place has been known as Beersheba, or Beersheba, the well of the oath, because it's there they swore an oath to each other that they would live in peace. After making their covenant, Abimelech left with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned to the homeland of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and he worshipped the Lord, the eternal God of that place. And Abraham lived in the Philistine country for a very long time. Okay, we'll stop right there. Now there's more, but we don't need to go into all of that. Abraham was the forefather of Israel. Israel was Abraham's grandson. Israel's name that we all know is Jacob. Okay. And so the existence of Palestine, or what we call Philistina, the Israelis call it Philistina, existed long before Israel was in existence. Okay. Philistina, or Palestine, was there. Babylon was there. Egypt was there. Greece was there. Persia was there. These countries existed long before the existence of Israel. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years before. Okay, what we call Mesopotamia or Babylon, that came into existence because of something called the Tower of Babel or Babel. So Babylon is the same place where this great empire was being built, and the people's intellect and so on was so high that they were reaching up to the intellect of God. And he had to put confusion into their camp, and it was called the Tower of Babel because it was confused. It confused the languages, and people weren't in one accord anymore. Couldn't fully understand each other. Weren't always on the same page. And to this day, people are not always on the same page. Even though they have a lot in common, they usually are not on the same page. Okay. So anyway, the point I'm making here is that what we call Palestine today is actually Philistine or Philistina, the land of the Philistines. Okay. And so that has existed for thousands of years. Israel is also extremely old itself. Israel existed for thousands and thousands of years as well, but it's actually a more recent. It's more recent than Palestine. Okay, and what I want you guys to understand before I go any further into what I'm going to talk about concerning RebelMoon, which is the next topic. And if you guys want to, again, feel free to join in. You can put stuff in the chat. You can jump on here if you want to. What's important here is to understand that these are both two very old civilizations, but they began in harmony. They began with a pact, a peace agreement between them. All right, the king of the land of Palestine, whose title is Abimelech, he was like a pharaoh. So that's not his actual name. That's his title. He invited Abraham into the land of the Philistines. Okay. Now, sometimes people call the land of the Philistine or Palestine, they call it Canaan. But Canaan is bigger than the land of Palestine because you have other You have other countries that exist in Canaan. Canaan includes Jordan, for example. Canaan includes parts of Syria, parts of Turkey, etc. All right. So you have to understand that context before you can really go into the history of Israel, because people say that Palestine existed before Israel, and yes, but not in the sense of how people talk about it. For example, they say Israel came to become or come into existence in 1947, but actually Israel did exist in different incarnations before 1947. So, Israel actually ceased to exist for a period of time because of ethnic cleansing that happened back in 70 AD, 70 AD, when the Roman Empire overthrew everything, destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, etc. And that was Judea. And also Samaria kind of suffered some severe damage as well. And so for a period of time, Israel wasn't on the map at all. And Jews mostly, I wouldn't call them Israelis, Jews, they spread out all over the world. Some of them went back into deeper Africa. Middle East was actually known as Africa. It's well, not Africa, but there wasn't the word. Africa is a European name for the continent. But what is called the Middle East today was a part of the continent of Africa. You see? So you can go through more recent history if you want. But what I'm trying to say is Israel and Palestine were like this. That's what I'm trying to say. How it all began. Even though God called Abraham out of Mesopotamia, the Ur of the Chaldees, they called it, which it involved at the time, Abraham was a Syrian. So anyway, so that's the point. Called him out of Ur of the Chaldees. Actually, it wasn't Mesopotamia. Sorry, my bad. He didn't call him out of Mesopotamia. He called him out of Ur of the Chaldees, which was more Turkey. And he moved from there into that region that we talk about now, which is Palestine. Okay. Now remember, Palestine is a part of Canaan, a part of Canaan. And so over the many millennia, at certain times, Israel actually took up almost all of Canaan. So Israel, at one point in time, occupied from beyond Jordan all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. It even took pieces of Syria, pieces of Turkey, pieces of Egypt. In the days of King David. But here's the thing: the one thing people are not talking about. I mean, back in biblical times, sometimes they kill out everybody, right? But what people don't know is that certain nations sort of made a contract with Israel so that they survived, but they abode under the rules of Israel. They observed Shabbat and that kind of thing. They couldn't worship other gods and that kind of stuff. So that happened historically through time. So I'm just covering. There's many things to cover here. And so it'll take too long to cover all of that. But I just wanted to say that how it began was peacefully. And even when Father Abraham had to dig up some wells to get some water, there was a disagreement with the people, the inhabitants there. And Abraham never fought them. When they said, no, this well is ours, after he dug it up, right? He cleared it out. There was a well there, but he cleared it out. And so he just moved on to the next well. And when they disputed with him about, another well that he dug up, he just moved on to the next well. And then he dug up another well, and then nobody came and disputed him on that. So he realized this was where he needed to stay, and that's what happened. Now, God did promise him that land. So when when Israelis say God promised us this land that we have here, yeah, okay, but 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 it's very important. The people that he met with, the leader of the area, gave him the land. What I'm trying to say is when God is going to give you something, he will make the situation and prepare the way. You don't have to devise your own devices to get it. You understand what I'm saying? So notice, Abraham was promised the land and it was peaceful. Nobody fought him. Well, there's some people fought him for the wells of water and stuff like that, but the official leader of the land literally offered him the land. Because when God opens doors for you, you just have to walk through. You don't have to fight and strive and strategize like Jacob was doing. You know, Jacob was a liar. He lied a lot. He was a deceiver. And I say that because Abraham deceived King Abimelech, and if it wasn't for Abimelech, the Lord speaking to Abimelech, he would have committed a sin. Not only him, Isaac, his son, did the same thing to the same king Abimelech. Same sin. So Jacob also committed the same sin. Okay? This time he tricked his brother out of his birthright. And then, you know, he was Jacob means supplanter, deceiver. All right. So I took a lot of time, about 20 minutes, emphasizing on this because I know the topic is going to continue onwards here. But it's something I'm trying to say, which is that when God has something for you, you don't need to try and conceive of deceptions, plans, and trickery to make it happen. He'll open the door for you. Saying? Further, I am saying that there was a history of trickery coming down the line of these people. And were it not that the people who were dealing with them were godly, if they wasn't godly, they'd have fought for it. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. We're moving now to Rebel Moon. As the movie says, it's a rebel movie. It's about resistance. And I have some notes here. And I'm going to say something because I like this movie already. This movie is timely. You know, they have some other movies that try to affirm, you know, a certain narrative, and that's all well and good. But he's saying that's not important. But this movie, the timing of it, Zack Snyder, I don't know how this dude, the timing of it is great. So let's get into it. For all that you love, show them no mercy. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? That sounds sexy, doesn't it? You know how he, it's like an oratory. What do you think about it? Is that good? Is that heroic? Is it really? In one of the Rebel Moon posters, it says they're not heroes. That's what the poster said. They're not heroes. In another place, we see, they describe about the people of Velt. This movie is centered around a certain planet, a certain moon. It's called Velt. On that On that moon, the people grow wheat. And the mother world is coming to get that wheat. And we know that the mother world and the officials coming from the mother world, they go from planet to planet, they take the resources and they kill the people. They ethnic cleanse. Just like the great old colonial arms. All right? Think about it. The history of colonialism is filled with blood. My country is found in the Caribbean. And like many Caribbean islands, the inhabitants of the Caribbean islands are not the original peoples that populated the islands. Yeah? Now, my blood has some of the original people's blood in it, but to find an original people's, most of them are wiped out. What's that called? Genocide. Okay. Follow me on this. Spain was guilty of it. The French and the British. Some Caribbean islands, to this day, have had rebels. In Guyana, Maxwell Coffey. Jamaica, the Moors, the Maroons, my bad, they still inhabit the mountains. The highlands, they inhabit that. You can't just go up in there. In Jamaica. Guyana, the interior, have the rebels. They establish their colonies. You can't just roll up in the interior just like that. They resisted. They rebelled against the colonial powers. And they used what was called guerrilla warfare. What today some people would call terrorism, because they knew the terrain so well, to push the colonials back from advancing and totally annihilating their civilization. So you will find native peoples and black peoples, the slaves and the natives, they both fought together and were able to push back the colonials. And to this day, they have settlements in these different countries I just spoke about, which have the original peoples. Another place that has the original peoples nobody talks about is Haiti. My country, its original name was Irie. That's right, Irie. It was renamed by Christopher Columbus, La Trinidad. Okay? But its original name was Irie. We have been taught in schools of the colonial way. And if you are not a European and of European blood, the main colonials were Spain, France, and Britain. These are the three countries that colonized the world in the New World. The New World. What they call the New World. Wasn't new, but whatever. Why am I saying all of this? Because as a matter of history, it is skewed to make you feel that the native peoples of these different countries were barbarians if they gave resistance. Today, they're considered terrorists for resisting. Why is it that Zack Snyder would choose to say there are no heroes in Rebel Moon? I have one more. There's several, but I'm going to do one more. United States of America. Europeans came from oppression. Always a people oppressed. And that was amazing. Australia, it was prisoners. Anyway, European people came to the New World, to the Americas, were oppressed. In the case of Mexico and in the case of Latin American countries, they came there to look for gold. Now, these people came to the New World initially, cordial relations between the native peoples and these new people that came to this new world. It wasn't hostility. But as the colonizers began to take more and more land and to feel entitled to what they were doing, there came a resistance from the native peoples. What did they do? Having superior firepower, they started to kill them. They talk about savages, that, the Native American Indians would scalp people, string up their skins. You know where the Native American Indians learned scalping? Europeans. I say this to say to you that America's history is fraught with colonial, the word I'm looking for is apartheid, colonial genocide, colonial ethnic cleansing. Imagine this. As far as you can see, the United States of America and Canada was filled with different tribes, different peoples. Some of these tribes are now extinct. They no longer exist. Some tribes made a deal with the governments after they killed out most of the native peoples and their lifestyle. And they got a portion of land, a small space in America, which the colonials gave them, like how Gaza exists in Israel. A small strip of land. Take that. They say that the winner gets all the spoils in a war and gets to tell the history. But if you're a truth seeker, you will find that actually history is much better if we know the full story, how rich it could be. And sometimes this history can teach us how to conduct ourselves in the modern world so that not only genocide and all these things will happen, but we can get a better balance of nature. We can overcome disease. We can learn so much from a people and a culture that if it still existed. There's a reason why diversity, not just for the sake of diversity, but diversity is important. Because learning different perspectives and different takes on things, and then on top of that, understanding where certain takes and different things can benefit mankind is priceless. It's not just a species that disappeared, but in this case, it's a culture that disappears. And I'm sure Rebel Moon will address that, because when I listened to Zack Snyder speak on the general who ended up being a gladiator after he defected from the mother world and the military of the mother world, we learn that he was colonized, meaning at a young age, his parents were killed on a certain planet with a certain culture. That planet was wiped out. And he joined the military, and he was as we say, naturalized into the culture of the mother world. So that's one of the stories of many stories of a lot of these people who were orphans. The lead character, Cora, both her parents were murdered, and she was just a child. Now, when I hear these stories, it sounds like sci-fi, but some of you can relate and some of you can't. If you've never been in a war-torn world, if you've never grown up as a child in the midst conflict, particularly a genocidal conflict or ethnic conflict, you will not be able to truly and fully relate to Korah or the general, okay, that I just mentioned. You will not, but think about how horrible the Holocaust was. How some children survived the Holocaust, but all of their family was decimated. Now, think about Palestine. What's happening right now as we speak is the Palestinians are still being bombed, and children are dying, and entire families are being wiped out. And sometimes the survivor of these families is just a child. Some of these children have severe injuries. So you're alone in the world. Everyone you know and recognized and depended on is dead. And you have injuries, sometimes critical injuries, life-altering injuries, where you have to have care for the rest of your life. Think about this. Korah gets absorbed into the military. The general gets absorbed into the military. They're indoctrinated in the military and so naturalized into the mother world, where they abandon their culture. They know nothing of it. They abandon the what's the word I'm looking for? The hereditary legacy that was supposed to be given to them. And now they adopt something else. And this is what Westernization through colonial settlement did to all of us. I am so distantly removed unless a lot of people now follow their family trees and find out where they're from. But unless you do some homework and research, a lot of us have been robbed of our genealogy. A lot of us do not know who we are, where we came from. You know, Man of Steel? What am I? Where did I come from? Right? So, in order to know who you are, it's very important to know your history, your family tree, your genealogy. You'll see in your genealogy the traits that define you. By understanding other family members did some of the things you do today. You understand yourself better. And you now understand your purpose and legacy because through your family line. You have to understand culture is very important, both additively and also in terms of who we are. Sometimes we behave in certain ways and we wonder why we behave this way. It's because maybe you're a son of a prince. Maybe you're a son of a king of a tribe. You don't know what you are. If you don't know, especially if you are not necessarily, not saying this is the case all the time, but if you're not from a European background, even though a lot of us still have links to the European background because of many different factors, if you're not of a European background specifically, where the phenotype or the external traits are not seen, you don't look, white, then it means that you probably don't know, especially if you're growing up in the new world, whatever, you probably don't know your genealogy like that. Now, it's really important to know these things, okay? And to know the culture you came from, because all of these things is what makes us who we are, okay? So Rebel Moon covers that. There is another quotation that was put forward in Rebel Moon, and this is the first part of it. This is going to be the Child of Fire. And in that quotation that was quoted, it said, I can't remember who was saying it. I think it was the Jimmy or the robot, the android robot. He said, Are you willing to die for what you believe? Now that's some, I can't tell. Some people think that's sexy, but that's not sexy. It's happening right now. The Palestinians, some of them are still in the north. They refuse to move from their homes because they believe this is where they live. And if they move on, life has no meaning. You have to find out what is most important to you. You have to decide if that's more important than simple existence. We can all exist. Okay? We can all exist. Existence is not living, right? Existence just means I'm alive, but I have nothing really. I'm physically alive, but internally I'm dead. Existing is just one thing. Okay? The Matrix will teach you that. Where you just drifting along and going with the flow of what everybody else is doing, but you're dead inside. Nothing really, you have no passion. You have nothing that drives you. Okay? So you can exist, but you have to understand what is important to you. There are some things more important than just existing. So where I'm looking, self-preservation is a good trait. But when self-preservation comes before principle, that is where we all go wrong. If you look at Washington, D.C. right now, I hate to sound so political, but I have to go there. A lot of the leaders in Washington, D.C., with the exceptions of certain leaders, have compromised themselves. They're existing. They're worried about their reelection, not understanding. And I'm talking about the left. I'm not talking about the right. The right, all in. Kill them all. But the left, that's not their message. Some in the left are saying free Palestine. But a lot of them are silent. Why? They're afraid that very powerful lobbyists, particularly the Israeli AIPAC lobbyists, will give their opponents, the right-wingers, the funds that they would have funded them. They're afraid of that. And so as a result, they don't want to be canceled. So they're going along. Isn't that amazing? Now, I can't live like that. Even if Mossad was to come out and take me out, I'm cool with that, because once I'm alive, my existence is to do what I believe. I was listening to, I forgot what the guy's name is, a very popular guy who kind of tries to be politically incorrect. I forgot what his name is. And he was interviewing a Muslim, and he was interviewing a rabbi. And the Muslim told him, because they were asking the Muslim, do you believe in martyrdom? And he said, yes. In fact, I'm willing to die for what I believe. And a lot of people will take that and say, oh, he's extremist, he can be suicide bomber. That's not what he's saying. What Zack Snyder is saying here, and I believe Zack Snyder's movies resonate with all kinds of people, but I'm pretty sure it resonates with the Islamic community right now. Because a lot of people misunderstand Islam. A lot of people misunderstand Jews. A lot of people misunderstand Eastern Orthodoxy, and therefore Christians who are Eastern Orthodox. It's an East meet West kind of thing. You know, people more understand the Roman Catholic version of Christianity. And I'm not going to knock the Roman Catholics right now. Let's leave that alone. But I don't subscribe to that. And anybody else who wants to, whoever may be watching this video, So what are you talking about? I don't subscribe to that. I believe there is one God. I agree with the Jews. There's one God. I agree with the Muslims. There's one God. I don't believe. I'm more of an Eastern Orthodox than I am a Western Orthodox. Talk about the Trinity and all those things. I don't believe in the Trinity. I don't. I'm just telling you guys right now. I don't. So, and you can take it up with me. I know about the Council of Nicaea. I know about all of that. I don't believe that. So you can believe it. That's okay. I don't. There's only one God. All right. So the point I'm making is that all of us, whether we're Jews, Christians, or Muslims, are all Abrahamic followers of a certain type of religion. We're all Abrahamic. But guess who this message comes from first? Whether it's Muhammad or whether it's the Jews who were called Christians at Antioch, guess what? They came after Judaism, after the Jewish tradition. We have to credit, whether we like it or not, Israel to our doctrine. It's just what it is. I'm being straight with you guys. Okay? So when people ask me, should Israel exist in the Middle East? I don't have a problem saying absolutely. I don't have a problem saying that. I'm not against that. What I am not for is apartheid Israel in the Middle East. Not for that. We had apartheid in South Africa, it didn't work. And we can't have apartheid in the Middle East. Can't. It's not cool. Okay? And some people will say to me, well, dude, the Islamic countries, they have their laws concerning, Islam. Everybody got to obey. In Saudi Arabia, they have to. Yes and no. Saudi Arabia is still a secular country. Predominantly, the population is Islamic. Got it? So they will have certain laws that correspond to that. But if you are not an observer of those laws, right, then you don't have to do them. They're not forcing you to do them. They're not asking you to convert to Islam. They're not doing those things. And if you look today, because this is the thing that a lot of people say. A lot of people say that, Muslims, they're quick to kill and suicide bomb and stuff. Listen. That's not true. They will always be proactive in political affairs, no doubt about that, but that's not true. As we all know, the extra texts, this doesn't come from the Quran, in other words. There are other teachings and texts which imams teach people where that particular thing which you're talking about was jihad, they go and elaborate on that. But to be honest with you, in the Quran might talk about, the Jews being reprobate and Christians being reprobate, but we do that as Christians too. We say, these people, if they don't believe in this particular brand of my religion, they're reprobate, right? So everybody says that. So that's not a reason. And if you look at most Islamic people, Islam even means peace. Most of the Muslims are not violent people at all. Okay? So you need to understand, just like how we have different sects of Christianity, and we talk about fundamental extremists, similarly, we have different sects of Islam, and we have fundamental extremists there. Similarly with Jews, there are different sects of Judaism, which is separate from Zionism, by the way. That's not the same thing. And we have people who are extremists there too. Okay? and you have militarized violent extremists, and you have the people who practice the thing. So it's based on interpretation, right? You have Zionists who are Christian, and you have Zionists who are Jews. Okay? Okay, got it? Zionists believe that Israel will return to its motherland, and eventually it will be coronated as the people of God. That's what they believe. Okay? That's what Zionists believe. Now, Rebel Moon. Getting back to the point. Rebel Moon is going to be a very great and fantastic film, and I listened to the music of it, some of the music of it they was doing in a feature and stuff. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Star Wars there. And I'm looking forward to the film. I still don't know much about the film, but from the little bits and pieces that Zack Snyder spoke about, I get the feeling that he's going to try and say something about these things. He's going to be doing a commentary somewhere on this, because what's weird is he did this film, you know, they've been making a film for 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And then, of course, this ongoing, I call it a family scrap. I know a lot of lives have been lost, but there's like these little family scraps between Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians and the Israelis. And the Israelis are they're misbehaving right now. Okay, Israel's misbehaving. All right, it's beating up the Palestinians because they can't fight back, taking their lands in the West Bank, and they're misbehaving. Let's be real. And what a lot of people don't understand is this is a kind of fluent thing. It's not just oh well, the Israelis, the Zionists who's forming Zionism, so that means from the get-go they wanted to kick their ass out of there. Yeah and no, in the sense that yes, the Nakba did happen, but there were Palestinians that remained in Palestine, and depending on who was running Palestine, if you're left wing or right wing, you had people who had a desire to bring about peace in Palestine. Okay, and so I'm saying all of this, and this is under the guise of Rebel Moon. So you guys are like, "What? Why are you talking about Palestine? What was Rebel?" Well, because the story ain't that complicated, right? People say it's complicated. It's not. Getting these two siblings to do like this is the problem. All right. So what was the guy's name? I forgot what his name is. He did something on Max, which was really great. John Oliver. John Oliver really captured it beautifully. I am not a Palestinian, and I am not an Israeli, right? But to make this simple, the people of Israel, we're not talking about the people who are the settlers. The settlers, some of the settlers are they're really terrible. I'm talking about the people in Israel. The people in Israel have a strong desire and feel for the people in Palestine. I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why that's so. First reason is the people in Israel love the people in Palestine. I'm talking to the average guy. Though they're afraid of them turning on them and bombing them or something. Because one, there are families in Israel who have families in Palestine. That's the first thing that a lot of people don't know, right? The second thing is this. Before we go there, let me preface something. Think of Gaza and think of the West Bank as ghettos, like the Warsaw ghetto, like a ghetto in your country, like the black ghettos, or the Brazilian ghettos, right? Think of them like that, because the people are poor. There's crime in there because people have to eat. It's militarized in the sense that people get shot and killed every single day. So you don't know if you're going to live. It's kind of roll the die. You kind of learn to navigate things and break the law different ways. But for the most part, you got to survive, because They got surveillance with drones. They bomb your ass every now and then. You don't take much to tick them off. They bomb you. You know, it's an edgy existence, right? Kind of reminds you of the ghetto. So think of these people as ghetto people who have been abandoned by the world. Nobody cares. Oh, they're all bad. And so because of that, they get mistreated really, really bad. Okay? That is, it's kind of like apartheid. So you got like the slums. It's kind of like that. So the people, they don't have the resources, they don't have water, they don't have food. They have to figure out ways. People talk about them getting employed by the, you know, lording over them, whatever. Point I'm making is this: that different regimes feel different ways. The left in Israel, left and right in Israel right now. The right is disappointed that Israel can protect itself properly, and the left in Israel is really pissed about the situation, but nobody really want to speak out. They say Israel's free speech, and that's not so true. It's not really that true. Okay, some people can speak out, but some people can't. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, just like how, okay, so best way to describe this is, you have Palestinians that live in Israel. Some of them are converted to being Jews. Some of them are Palestinian Jews. That's the Jews that actually exist there. And these people, because they lived in Israel, they have families in Palestine, or what they call Palestine, right? It reminds me of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Same people, but just because of a divide in country line, this is what's happening with Israel. There are people who came from out the region, from Poland, from the US, whatever, and coming to Israel, and Brazil and so on. But for the most part, the endemic people who lived in that region, there are also people there like that. And then there are people who are Palestinian in the region, supposedly just. So let me just break it down real simple, right? So two things: families. Two, you got people who are actually endemic to the region, not just endemic to other countries, but people that actually lived in Israel who were Jews. They were there all the time. Okay, and then you have people who came in as Jews, and then you have people who are Palestinian who are living there. They live in Israel. Now, everybody don't have the same rights and privileges, but that's besides the point. They exist. What I'm trying to say to you is this. This is my point. The potential for Israel to just embrace everybody, and instead of calling itself a Jewish state or defining itself as a Jewish state, call themselves a state where the predominant people, at least of the state, are Jews. Absorb the people in Gaza and the West Bank into the country. If you want, you can call the country Israel Palestine. But problem solved. One more problem. Just like South Africa, you have a problem in that the conditions in the country are still the same. So even if you do introduce these people in, the settlers are still going to kill them. Just because you remove the borders doesn't mean, people might be free to move around, supposedly, but the restrictions can stay the same. So what do we do next? You have to ban apartheid. Now, people are not going to change overnight. Two, let the people be free to move all around Israel, wherever they want to go. That's definitely going to make a big difference, because the people now can work, they can take care of themselves, they can still continue their culture, they can have their little communities where they want to be, that kind of thing. Instead of doing Israel/Palestine, let the people be free to go wherever they want to go, just like how they did in Palestine. Point number two, allow people back into the country. Yes, your population, you wanted your population predominantly Jews, you still have that invite there, But correct your wrongs. Let the Palestinians back into the country. You'll need to have some records of who's related to who, otherwise people who are not Palestinian. So they have to provide evidence, whatever. And you okay them. And you don't do it all at once. Everybody can't just come in at once. That would be chaos, right? That's like the refugee problem in Europe. You have a certain allotted amount of them, you queue them up in a line, and you let them in slowly back into the country. All right? It does not matter. Let the PLO have a part in the political scheme, in politics. Break up your country into sectors, just like how America or any republic does, right? So if there's even more Palestinians than Jews, you still have a fair way of having elections fair enough. So you have different districts and areas where the representation be. Just make it a republic. And that's a westernized value. You westernize the country, you make it a Western country. You know what I'm saying? And take away the apartheid. We know it'll take time to wear that down. People still gonna have views and whatever. Deprogram the people. If you have Palestinians as part of the IDF, or I guess it'll be called the IPDF, right? You get stronger as a country because you're united. Now people say, well, Hamas is a problem and stuff. Well, here's the thing with Hamas. How would you like that members of Hamas become parts of the IDF or the IPDF or whatever? They start fighting for you. You build relationships with Hezbollah, with Lebanon, stronger relations with Jordan, stronger relations with Egypt, because the Brotherhood is the Muslim Brotherhood is part of the Israelis. They're Israeli and they're proud to be Israelis. They start riding with the Israeli army. That strengthens you. You have to think of the potential. Now you say, well, Hamas is right now fighting Israel and they want to wipe out. No, Hamas said they don't like and appreciate the Israel as a apartheid Jewish state. They didn't say that they didn't. I don't know. I really don't. It is a terrorist organization. I'm trying to rationalize certain things with them, but they are terrorists. That's what they were. They legitimized themselves by becoming political entities. Israel funded them. You know, Netanyahu funded them and stuff like that. But Hamas has changed its views over the years, just as how Yasser Arafat changed his views over the years as well. So there's possibility that it can change. But my point is, Israel becomes stronger if they can get those military arms of Hamas and the strategies and the stuff that they do and incorporate them, just like how they do with Ethiopians. You incorporate Ethiopian Jews in your army. I've seen them, okay? Incorporate them in there, but give everybody equal rights, you know, and let the culture, let the Palestinian culture go, and then grow the olive trees, grow back the olive trees that you destroyed in your settlements. In other words, I'm saying to Israel is you have an opportunity. I know, because I come from a country where, okay, a lot of atrocities happened to the early peoples and stuff, but now we embrace the early peoples. We have sometimes in a town called Arima, all the indigenous peoples come down there, and we have a lot of people from Arima who are, you know, descendants in part of the indigenous peoples. So what I'm trying to say is you celebrate your differences. You celebrate. They're your brothers and sisters. They came from the region. You have people with actual families that live in these areas, you know, and it's different conditions, you know, let's equal the playing field, you know. Now you would say, well, what do we do about settler occupation? It's real simple, man. It's real simple. Pay the people off. Let the settlers pay the people off for the property because they took it for free. Pay them off and let them settle elsewhere. Because it's generations ago, they came and kicked them out, right? 1967, whatever, right? So compensate them and keep it moving. Simple. Okay, okay. And if they want to go into the settlements and places to just see, you know, their childhood experiences or whatever, they're not coming in there to raid the place or whatever, let them do it. They should be free to go wherever they want. And let them do their business and commerce and get bustling again and get the life back into place. So we ain't got to worry about nobody. We ain't got to worry about the UN taking care of refugees. We don't have refugees anymore. You eliminate the refugee problem. You eliminate the burden put on the world and burden put on your country in maintaining these people. Because you already have the arrangement with lights, water, whatever. And usually, people don't travel all over our country. They usually settle in one spot, and usually it's the spot they're familiar with. So a lot of the people in Gaza are going to stay in Gaza, right? Open up your what do you call those things? Your freeways to them. Open up, let them do their business, let them sustain themselves, but let them be a part of your nationalistic interest, which will make you stronger. And when they feel it's their country and they get all these rights and privileges and stuff, yes, you can still have people who start jumping around and start do terrorist things, try and frustrate the process. We know Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat in the 1993 Accords. It was close to the end, and then they killed Rabin, right? And we know they also killed Arafat many years later. But the point is, they were close to making an agreement, and of course, you're going to have special interest terrorist groups from outside or whatever to frustrate the peace. We expect all of that, but it's better than the situation happening now, where we have a humanitarian crisis. The people only, and usually the people who are doing this are not poor people. The poor people of Israel, or the people who are middle class in Israel, are not doing this. It's the rich and the wealthy taking other people, hiring them to do this to these people. Okay? Just because you got more military might and you got great intelligence and you export it and so on, doesn't mean you have to beat down people. Why is this so hard for humanity to get? And I know it's a human problem. It's not a Jewish problem, because right now the Jews for peace and many others are protesting this. And we got Jews inside of Israel protesting this. They don't like it. People don't like to see other people suffer. People don't like to see other people get killed. Yes, they're afraid that, Hamas or terrorists will come and bomb them and stuff. They have had a history of that. But let's be real here, people. They don't want to see other people suffer. They don't want to see little kids, dead in graps. That's just terrible. They want to see a place that was bustling with buildings and marketplaces and people moving around. They don't want to see that as a desert and just buildings just pulverized. Nobody wants that, which leads me to the other point. RebelMoon will appear in theaters November 15th in the US and the UK. So you guys got it. RebelMoon will appear in theaters. Okay? Sometimes resistance calls for some things that people don't want to do. And they're not called heroes for doing it until maybe many, 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 many years after. And so some of the things that people call terrorist acts are sabotage. They'll sabotage something, right? Where rebels, you'll see it in the movie, you saw it in Star Wars, you saw it in I love Star Trek, because Star Trek shows you how to deal with many different peoples, many different cultures and stuff. And they don't go and affect the culture. They don't go in there and kill out everybody or try to make everybody conform to them. That's what Star Trek did, especially the Next Generation. It was great, but we don't have that kind of stuff anymore, right? The content that is now called entertainment in films is some garbage. They're teaching people garbage. They're not putting out stuff for people to teach people something or to let them remind them of things. That's the problem today. Everything's so commercialized. So when I hear that the Marvels, they're failing at the box office, I'm not surprised. When Aquaman goes and fails at the box office, I won't be surprised either. Because you're not saying anything. Okay? Whereas these movies, RebelMoon, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman 2017, said something. That's why I said, are you saying something? I still want to see Killers of the Flower Moon, by the way. And I also want to see Open Eye. Okay? You got to say something, because if people don't have, and if the main Sometimes people learn. Movies are so very influential. When you will be surprised how much movies shape people's minds and morality on certain things. People say reading is great, and a lot of people don't read much, but pop culture can shape your mind, and that's what I love about Zack Snyder. He makes you think. Now, let me go back to what I was saying. So, coming up with Rebel Moon will be a rated R version, and also we'll have a comic book release of the forgot what they name. Some reason it's something Jax, but I can't remember what it is. You guys, if you guys know what the name is, give it. But my point anyway is this: that there'll be a comic book release also coming out next year. So the rated R version for the first part, which will be Child of Fire, coming out next year. Okay. But my point anyway is this, okay, that a lot of times we want to use might and power. That's why I asked the question on Twitter, or X, I think it's called now. What would happen if women were the leaders of nations in this world? When have you seen a woman who's a leader of a nation going to war? Leading out and going to war with somebody else? No, that's some asshole man who's usually full of his ass who's doing that. It's all about testosterone, which, oh yeah, now I remember what it was about. Yeah, it's all about testosterone. Going to war with everything. When you can, and women are really good at this. They're really good at conversation. They're really good at talking each other out of certain situations, dealing with delicate situations. So nobody has to pick up arms, because guess what drains economies? War. The military complex gets fatter for it, but nobody else profits, which leads me to this point that I really should have made. But it's really under Free Palestine, but nonetheless, I'm gonna talk about it right now. How the military complex can continue making money without bloody wars. I'm gonna explain. It's very simple. We have what are called war games, where one country meets another country in an uninhabited area, where it's the Sahara Desert. So that's a huge place in Africa, Sahara Desert, away from the Bedouin and their routes, and you establish your war games there. You can carry it as serious as you want. You can blow each other up if you want. You can carry live rounds, or you can, but you have your war games there. Country versus country. You have like your Olympic games of war games there. That way you get to sell your weapons still. You get to sharpen up your weapons if you want. And you can blow each other up if you want. You can even throw atomic bombs at each other if you want. Because that's such a, Sahara Desert is a little bit massive area. I'm not saying do it, but I'm just saying. My point is, if you want to fight wars, the military complex, you want to fight wars, you want to sell products and stuff to the consumers and big countries and stuff, do war games. Pick your venue. Make sure it's not where a lot of civilians are. And one army puts itself against another army. You can even have private companies with their mercenaries come to do these war games. Okay? Ain't no trees around, but there's maybe animals around, so you might fuck up the animals. But nonetheless, what I'm saying is, you want to go to an area that's more like wilderness. You can roll your tanks in, you can roll in your different things. You can make it as dangerous as you want, where lives can be lost. It's up to you. And now you can practice your war game with your droids, your whatever. But please stop warring among people that have nothing to do with your fucking war. Sorry about the F-bomb, but I'm just so pissed. We always have these civilian casualties. And most of the time, the people don't even support the people you're going after. 70% of the people, this is some poll that was conducted in October. I got this from 70% of the people in Israel do not support Netanyahu and his regime. They don't like him. And guess what's happening in Palestine? They did a poll in Palestine, and I believe it's 60 to 70% of the people. Oh, no, there was no poll. But they had protests in Palestine, and these people were moving around saying, fuck Hamas. That's right. I'm surprised they were allowed to. I think this happened not too long ago. They said, fuck Hamas. In fact, some guy was waving a flag on a building saying, save us from Hamas. Okay. So I'm trying to say to you guys that Netanyahu and his regime versus Hamas, please don't kill the civilians. We already got, Hamas has some civilians hostage. We really don't need that, people. We really don't need it. Hamas, can you please give up could you please, if you want to exchange the hostages for the Palestinian kids that are in prison, a whole bunch of them, do the trade. But just remember, they might die when they go back to Gaza under the present conditions in Gaza. So it's probably better they're in prison right now. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say it like that because that sounds terrible. But it's better they're alive than they're dead. I'm just saying. Right now it's not a good time to do that trade. But if Hamas want to do that, fine. I'm just saying. My point is this. The people of Palestine really couldn't give a flying fuck about Hamas right now. I'm not saying that some of them don't support what Hamas is doing in a sense. They kind of feel kind of joyful that Hamas is not being caught or whatever. There's a resistance. So some of them might have that feeling inside of them because they probably hate Israelis because it's their only contact with Israelis since they're born, because a lot of kids were born after 2006. A lot of them are under the age of 18. There's a lot of minors there. It's like 50% of Palestine are minors, at least in Gaza. So it's a lot of kids, and these kids don't really give a fuck about Hamas. Some of these kids was, you know, they'd be on Twitter, they'd be on X, they'd be using social media. They were westernized. These kids are westernized, okay? And then bombs keep on falling, and now they fucked up the whole country in the north, particularly, and in the south too. They fucked up the country. Why do you fuck up the universities? Oh, we're searching for Hamas. Get the fuck out of here. You and Hamas go to the Sahara Desert, and you guys can fight it out there. Leave the fucking people alone. I'm sorry about the F-bombs, but I gotta go there. Leave the people alone. Hamas, just, you want to fight them? Okay, fine. Just the people that remain alive that are hostages, please just go across there. IDF, you want to bomb some people? All right, you want to bomb Hamas? Okay, good. Y'all go in the Sahara Desert. It's not too far away. Well, it's kind of far away, but nonetheless. And you can fight. But please leave the civilians out of it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm just saying, a lot of people, you know, are dying for no freaking reason. Okay? I know that Hamas is supposedly the government of Palestine. But because there's not been an election since 2006, people have not been able to self-determine and remove them and replace them with somebody else. So they're left with a fucked up situation. And then to say that they are wrong, you know, and I'm not saying that the Arab world and different people don't see Hamas as rebels, which is what we're talking about with Zack Snyder. They see them as rebels. They don't see them as terrorists. They see them as rebels, okay? Let's just be real. We know they are a terrorist organization. We know they came from that at least, right? They then sanitized themselves somewhat, and they were running a country. They never really got to run that country because every single time they start to do something to get universities up and stuff up, fucking bomb comes and they bomb the fucking country, okay? So it's back to debris. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really say, you know, the people, they're resilient. They survive. They come back. They drive their cars and then even under, you know, really ridiculous conditions. But it's like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like you wonder what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? And you feel like, and I'm not totally against right-wing people, but you know, they seem to have a history of just being so fucking trigger happy and extreme. They're willing to go to war for absolutely nothing at times. You know, just look at Congress. Look at the Senate. These motherfuckers are ready to fund billions of dollars so Israel can be equipped to go more to war with whoever. If Lebanon wants to join in, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, fund them money to go to war. And the U.S. economy goes to crap and people suffer for that. I mean, what are you doing? Seriously, Congress, what are you doing? You're funding genocide, and on top of that, you're causing genocide in your own fucking country. Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? You know, that's why I can't understand the right at times. I can understand Republicans talking about business. I'm the same thing. I'm a business. So obviously I side with that. Independent business and no big government. You need to have small government, diversify, kind of like, and let different people manage themselves. I agree with that. But my problem is when you want to go to war more than you want to feed your own damn people. You're not taking care of your people. You're not taking care of your people. That's why I said these knuckleheads, they need to go in the front line. Put them in the front line, in the line of fire, since you want to go to war so much, right? You survive, you get millions. You don't survive, too bad. Somebody else will get your millions. How about that? The deal is, they put you in the front line of the war, right? And if you somehow manage to survive that, okay, you get more funding to go do more war. Because the problem with the people today is they like to make decisions behind closed doors. They're not going out to combat. They send the other people out to combat to die, to be exposed to danger. They send people out. So it's easy for them to say, oh, we can fund this money to this. You know, let's test out these weapons. It's easy for them to say that because they're not the ones having to take the risk of dying. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, there's one thing I got to say, and so much I want to say, but, you know, I'm taking my time here. If you like war so much, fund war games and go to war somewhere else. Don't go into people's countries and kill out all the citizens saying you're hunting down this guy. Fuck you. There's something called special forces for that. There's something called intelligence for that. Way more accurate. You want to have a big scale war? Okay, fine. Do it in an unpopulated area. The winner gets to deal with how they'll manage the next nation. How they'll run the rest of the people. Okay, we're going to fight over Turkey. Okay, fine. You send your troops out in the desert and y'all fight it out. Winner gets Turkey. How's that? But you can't harm the citizens. Let them have your policies or whatever. That's how you need to do it. I mean, use your common sense. What the fuck is wrong with these people, man? And all of them are men. And they're all stupid. Sending the world down a crap. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. I don't get it, people. I gotta say, I don't get it. Ego, stupidity, always want to control things. Why? That's how the mother world is, right? Mother world is brutal. It's killing out everybody in RebelMoon. So let's talk about it. So I already kind of covered this. RebelMoon covers colonization, genocide, ethnic cleansing, naturalization, gentrification, resistance, terrorism, and oppression. Okay, these are some of the topics you will see in Rebel Moon, and they have been fresh topics to you because you'll be hearing these topics right now, currently in the world today, both in the Ukraine and also the Palestinian war, and what nobody's really mentioning is the Armenian ethnic cleansing in Azerbaijan, which supplies oil to Israel through Turkey. Okay, people? I don't want to go, I'm saying a lot here, but the Israel has funded the government of Azerbaijan to ethnic cleanse the Armenians, and nobody's really talking about that except for Mel Gibson. Okay, you see celebrities talking about these things. The guy for Pink Floyd, one of the musicians of Pink Floyd, he also is pro-Palestinian, and he is part of what is called, okay, that moves me to Free Palestine. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Free Palestine. And once again, Free Palestine doesn't mean the place has to legitimately be called Palestine. I don't care what the place is called, okay? What's important is that everybody can go back into it. People who have been kicked out and can't return, they should be able to go back. People should be able to move anywhere they want in Palestine. They should have all the rights of the citizens of that place. I don't care if it's called Palestine. I don't care if it's called Israel. I don't care if it's called Israel-Palestine. I don't care if it's Palestine-Israel. I don't care if they're called Palestine Israelis or Palestinians. I really don't give a fuck. What's important is whatever this space of land is, take more land. So Israel can have the whole thing, if you want to call it that. So the Zionists, hey guys, guess what? You get your objective. And the Palestinians, they get to live life, enjoy life, be part of the nation. Win-win. End of story. One state solution. Okay? People say, well, it could become Islamic like all the other nations, and then probably they could wipe out the Jews. Why would they do that? They married to some of them. Why would they do that? That's stupid. Okay? No, that wouldn't happen. It didn't happen before. It's not going to happen now. There will be disputes. There may be some localized killings and stuff like that. All of that will happen. But at the end of the day, it will smoothen out. Just like what happened in South Africa. We have a template, people. We have a template. Okay? South Africa is a success. Yes, there's ups and downs and all kinds of things going on, but it's a success. Maybe they mutually forgive each other. Netanyahu gets forgiveness. Hamas gets. I don't know how it'll go. But what I do know is the way forward is as one. People need to work as one. Humanity will win out. It'll be a good situation. Now, you can have the two-state solution if you want, and they be sisters and brothers. But the argument over Jerusalem and who has the rights to Jerusalem and blah, 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 blah is just ridiculous. Okay, that's why the two-state solution has a lot of headache in it. Besides, now you have to move people out of the West Bank who settled there, and guess what? Here's the problem. I don't have a problem with the settlements in the West Bank in a certain respect. Let me explain why. The West Bank has a lot of history, cultural, traditional history, a lot of rich history. The people who live in the West Bank, they don't want to move away because it's something generations upon generations. Okay. So if people have settled there already, you can't get back some of that stuff, but you can have historical sites that depict the history, that celebrate the history, restoration of those sites. For the people who want to continue, we had the Bedouins who come from Africa that used to live there. They're Palestinians as well. The people want to grow back their olive trees. Some of the best olive trees and olives come from Palestine. Let them grow back their agriculture. Let them do their thing. Let them live their lives. In other words, what I'm saying is, you got settlements there already. All right, fine. We're cool with that. But why is it that Palestinians and Israelis can't live side by side with each other? Why can't be neighbors with each other? I don't get it. Why can't Palestine? Okay, some neighborhoods, they will want to be gated or whatever, and they'll keep their Jewishness together or whatever. But I've never seen, in fact, before this whole big row and ruckus that happened in 1938, started in 1938, by the way, Jews and Palestinians, even Jews that were immigrating into Palestine, they were existing next to each other. They used to chill out and talk with each other and everything. I just don't get it. That's why I said they're brothers. Like, the Palestinians never rejected the Israelis that came there, that repatriated back there. He never did. It only started to happen when the Israelis started to organize themselves and they started to lead the Palestine, and then the imperial power, which was Great Britain, which Great Britain really fucked them up. But again, colonialism. Great Britain fucked up everything and then left it. Just left it made a mess and then left everything, because the only people who really didn't understand the culture was the British. British didn't get it, right? They made an agreement with the Jewish people and left out the Arabs. How the fuck do you do that? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so it's a good thing that it didn't partition, and maybe it should just be what it was. Palestine, what do you want to call it? Israel, Palestine, whatever. Just let it be one continuous thing where everybody can live. And let some of the people back, but the people you can claim lineage or whatever, let them back into the country, man. Let it function like a normal country. You get a visa, you go to, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through a procedure. Just like out in the States, you got to vet people, vet them. Don't vet the people who are supposed to be there, though. So you put those people back. With respect to the settlers, they need to change their attitude. Some of them, got drunk with power, feel they could do anything, think that God shows them people, and they're abusing people. And that is not what the Torah teaches. The Torah said to be kind to the oppressed, to deal with the poor, to take care of the widows. What the fuck are you doing? Okay? Not to mention the United Nations said it's illegal to do that. So they're not even supposed to be on the land. I mean, come on. So I'm just saying that the solution to this thing is real. It's not that complicated. Like people say, it's really complicated, but not really. Not really. Not really. I don't why I'm not saying it's a one-state solution or two-state solution. What I'm saying is the people need to unite, because there's not much difference between people of Palestine and the people of Israel. There's not much difference between them. And they've been there for generations. Both of them are very old civilizations. Very old. Palestine's older than Israel. But they're two very old civilizations. And the way how Israel even was welcomed into Palestine by, the story of Abraham is just ridiculous. I mean, why are we fighting? Over what? You serious? Oh, the mosque is on this side and synagogues on that. Shut the fuck up, man. Y'all some real clowns, man. Oh, the Holy Land. Who cares? If it's one state or it's one place, and it doesn't matter if there's an Islamic leader or there's a Christian leader or there's a Jewish leader, it doesn't matter. Just the only problem with Israel will be this. It cannot be defined as just a state for the Jews. You can't do that. That's the problem. It's how it's defined. You see? You're making it sound like you can't be a Jew if you don't believe in Israel and support Israel, and that's bullshit. You're not an anti-Semite because of that. Being a Jew has nothing to do with location. Being a Jew has to do with your practices, your lifestyle, and following the Torah, and being circumcised. That's what a Jew is. Okay? And Jewish people are the dopest people I've ever met. And they're very innovative. They're like the Syrians, certain Islamic people are really dope too. They've got so much insight into things. And you can learn so much from them. So I'm not against, the existence of Israel or the existence of Palestine. I'm not against it, but it has to change. It can't stay the same. And we don't want to hear about talks and people still taking land. We don't hear that. You got to freeze everything. You know what I'm saying? This saying here, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Come on now. All that means is, I don't know if I ever talked about this. All it means is that Palestine was even with the division, Palestine would have been in the north mostly. A little bit north of Palestine would have been some parts of Israel. And Israel is mostly to the south. So from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea was mostly Palestine. So that's what that meant. But it's you know, all it means now is the whole place would be, you know, the people be free to go wherever they want, the Palestinians, right? So it doesn't matter if they call themselves Israelis or Palestinians, Israelis, well, whatever the fuck. And we don't care about that. What we care is they're free to get food, free to work, free to move around. I'm pretty sure they'll take the deal. They'll take that deal. Anything better than what they have. And they're free to vote. They're free. They must have all the rights. It's a state. It's not a fucking apartheid state where only one set of people have rights and privileges. No. But especially initially, predominantly the people who will be there will be Jewish. It might change. The demographics might change, but that's not a problem. Once it's a place where Jews can go, but you gotta make it regularize it to what Western things are. While you encourage Jews to come, you know, and work out the visa or whatever you have to work out for them to come. At the same time, it's not Jews only. You know, have other people come. You know, make it. You give everybody, except the people owed to them, the families at least, the genealogy. Give everybody a fair share. And here's the thing: what a lot of people don't realize, the Palestinians don't necessarily want to go to. Most of the Palestinians and the generations after, they may be comfortable where they're living, just like with the Jews. You don't force Jews to be where they're living, and some of the Jews just cool where they are. Okay, would they love to come and visit Israel? Absolutely. So people might go and visit Israel instead of live there. You know what I mean? And the point I'm making is this: similarly with the Palestinians, not all the Palestinians will want to come back and stay. That's another very important point. Right? Some of them are comfortable where they're living. They're like, well, why would I go there? Right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, but there are Palestinians who are like exiles. They'll want to go back. They will want to see the spots where they grew up. They would like to see the towns and how it developed or didn't develop. They'll want to know. So some people will come just to visit, to see, you know, the place. Some will come back to live, say, I'm back home, and claim the spot as home. Nothing's wrong with that. And so, I mean, I don't know how to say this to people, but this ain't complicated, people. It ain't. I understand all the colonial thing and all that. I watched the history. I understand where the Arabs was getting not a fair shake of things. And then there were certain leaders who started giving them a fair shake and really was talking about it. I don't know if they were executed, but they was definitely agreeing on things. It's just what it is. All right. So I'm just saying, from the river to the sea has nothing to do with destroying Israel. It's not about getting rid of the Jews. It's not about getting rid of the Israelis either. All right. And some people might literally want to do that because they love oppression. But ultimately, in the end, when people are saying that, when you hear legions of people saying that, understand they're not talking about that. They're talking about Palestinians being free to move wherever they want to go, do whatever they want to do. Because at this point in time in Gaza, they can't go nowhere. Right now, even now, they can't leave the country. They can't. They trickle in humanitarian aid and stuff, but they're not getting to do what they want to do. Don't forget to smash the like button, people. Yeah, I talked about this already. All right, the BDS movement. What is this? The BDS movement has been around for like maybe since I can't remember, the 80s or what, 90s, I think, or 2000s. I think it's 2000s. But the BDS movement is this. And this is what actually allowed South Africa to eventually end apartheid. It's part of the strategy. There's many different strategies. And I'll talk about it. So anyway, the BDS movement is boycott, divest, and sanction. Okay. This movement is what brought about the end of apartheid finally in South Africa. It got to the global eye. It got the global attention, and then people stopped buying certain things from South Africa. They stopped investing in South African companies, and sanctions were put on South Africa because of apartheid. So this is a sort of tripartite attack or approach to countries that can be done. Besides sanctions, you can also check out the International Criminal Court for criminal acts and acts against humanity, and so on and so on and so on. Now, having said that, South Africa didn't go the route of trying to criminalize people. They just wanted a confession. They just wanted people to come to the fore. They wanted forgiveness. They wanted healing. And maybe the same thing might be applicable to Israel and Palestine, because I've seen, survivors and people in Palestine right now who, they video, they video, what do you call the thing? Like what I'm doing right now. They stream or they video whatever, and they video conference with people in Israel. Well, at least when things was better. Right now, I don't know. I don't think they can do that right now. But so some people, like there was this father that lost his daughter in a suicide bombing in Israel, an Israeli father, and he coupled up with a Palestinian father who lost his son or daughter, I think it was, in a bombing. And so the Israelis and the Palestinians, they talk with each other. The internet kind of cut off and stuff, So there's people who have relationships with people in Palestine. It's all kinds of things going on, and unfortunately, Palestine's like gone back into the dark ages because like place is fucked up. I mean, fucking IDF just fucked up the place, So not really anything's working and running. It's just fucked up, and they destroy the people in their cars and making them walk, the fucking freeway. I mean, this stuff is just so fucking inhumane, and then they talk about how we're being humane. Fuck you. I mean, seriously. I'm sorry about all the F-bombs, but I'm just so pissed about it. Anyway, the point is the BDS movement. Sorry about the F-bombs, people, but I'm so pissed. The BDS movement, it's very effective. Now, whether countries will want to do this, like for example, the United States of America, if they just dry up funding to the Israelis for military defense, because the primary funding is going to military. We know that Israel does a lot of research and development for the United States of America, but you have to put them in check and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. You have to rein people in. Sometimes if you're a friend, you call yourself an ally of somebody, you need to tell them the tough things, man. You need to tell them what they don't want to hear. Hey, man, you got to stop that. Don't be killing these civilians. Get a ceasefire. Let's have a ceasefire. You can still run your covert ops while the ceasefire is going on, but stop bombing the people and make sure you get a deal with Hamas and they stop firing at you. And to preserve civilian lives, because it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay? And then on top of that, one of the other approaches is that you have to have, there's no way Israel's going to change its mind unless the people within Israel, just like with the Arab Spring, the people within Israel need to express very strongly that they oppose what's happening, particularly on this initiative that Netanyahu is losing. They have to rid themselves of fear. That's another thing that the RebelMoon said, how you have to tear off fear and step into the light. And a lot of people are being threatened, their jobs, social media people are being threatened and so on, the ones that make money, and people are worried about self-preservation. On humanitarian issues, on issues of humanity, there's no such fucking thing as self-preservation. Let me tell you why. When you try to self-preservate, it's only, if they start off with the people, the oppressed people, they're going to end up with you. Eventually, they're going to do the same thing to you. So you have to stop it in advance. That's why you have to stand up and speak out now. Can't be playing it safe. Oh, I don't really know the story. I really don't know what's going on in Palestine. I really don't know what's going on in Israel. I don't know what to believe. But if you don't know what to believe, just look at the graphic images of dead children, of children badly injured. Well, Hamas is waving the children in front of us so we can feel sad. Okay. All right. You think so? So, in other words, someone bombing the fuck out our country is okay. It's just Hamas, man. Don't believe nothing Hamas is doing. They just trying to strategy. They got these people performing in front of cameras and shit. I mean, come on now. How much of your humanity when you realize this is not making sense? They haven't. Have they caught Hamas? Have they gotten more Hamas? What's their progress with Hamas? You know, they're not going to succeed at getting Hamas. You know why? A lot of the leaders of Hamas don't even live in Palestine. So why are you hunting down Hamas? Oh, we're hunting down Hamas. Okay, all right. Right. Yeah. Just one subtle point, though. If you're going to go at Hamas, why don't you follow the money? And why don't you go after their leadership? I'm just saying. Well, I took out a general in a shut up. Because most of the leadership, the real players of Hamas, they're not even in Palestine. They're not. And everybody knows where they exist. But nobody's going after them, though. I'm just saying. Why? I'm just saying. So, in order to really and you know, the atmosphere is perfect for this right now because most of the people in Israel do not like Netanyahu, do not like the extreme right that's there. There are leftist Zionists who believe that Israel should exist, and you know, and we're not saying Israel shouldn't exist. What we are saying is, whether you want to call it Israel or not, the way how it functions right now, something's wrong with it when it comes to the Palestinians, when it comes to people who are not, you know, Euro-looking Israelis. This is the problem. So you got to do something about your laws, and you can just absorb the Palestinians into your country. Just have one big, nice country. I mean, come on now. Look at South Africa. South Africa's really doing well, economically, etc. Because why? They even addressed their AIDS problem. They had an HIV problem. They addressed it. Why? Because everybody's on the fucking same page. So do that. Make it simple. This is my last, well, actually, I have two other points. I don't need to go through that. Yes, Jews are blessed people. And the will of the people in Israel, and by the way, Israelis are not Jews. Israelis are Israelis. That's the problem. Saying that, trying to tie a state to the people, and that's how the people are defined, that's stupid. And don't tell me I'm anti-Semitic because I'm criticizing Israel and Israelis. And not all the Israelis either. Because not all Israelis follow Judaism. See, so I just covered these two things. Palestinians, they actually have a different will to Hamas. East versus West, they're trying to make this a regional war and then a global war. That's not necessary if Israel handles their stories correctly. And apologists stop trying to apologize for Israel and just do the right thing. So the last thing I got to talk to you guys about is Zack Snyder Justice League in IMAX, which tomorrow, November the 17th, would have been the date that I was asking them to release it. And I asked them to announce this movie tomorrow, which is now today. Today is the 17th. So the strategy for me today, later on today, would be to tweet this a lot, tweet this hashtag like crazy. Now I notice some people are putting Zack Snyder's Justice League or Snyder Cut in theaters. I'm not going to do that because I believe the best format is IMAX. I am not interested in putting Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters. I am interested in putting it in IMAX because it was designed for IMAX. So this, besides this hashtag being shorter, that's what I'm going with. Now, you don't have to go with this hashtag. You can go with whatever you want to go with. All right? People are going to probably put, but the thing about it is when it trends, you want it to trend with something that's short. All right, but Snyder Cut in theaters or Snyder Cut in Zack Snyder Justice League. You don't want a long trending thing. You want a short like your hashtag like this. Anyway, all I'm saying is tomorrow I'm going to be doing this hashtag. That's what you're going to see me doing when I do come back online after a little later on today. And hopefully trends. Now, Snyder Queen, she's also doing a hashtag. I believe like this. She asked that this hashtag be done. I saw some people also talking about the haircut tomorrow. I would suggest restore the Snyderverse, Zack Snyder Justice League and IMAX. If you want to, you might want to do different hashtags, but for me, personally speaking, I would prefer just keep one hashtag, just two hashtags. Restore the Snyderverse, Zack Snyder Justice League and IMAX. That's all I'm doing tomorrow. I'm not doing the haircut. I'm not doing all those things. To me, all those things, it's my opinion. To me, all those things right now are pie in the sky. What can happen now or very soon, I know the strike is over and everything now though, is this hashtag. So I'm more pushing this hashtag. And you guys know I push this hashtag a lot. I do also push Rebel Moon and all those other things. But particularly this hashtag I want to push because I think this movie needs to be seen in theaters, even more so now than ever before. So that's what I basically got for you guys. The one last thing I want to talk about is I forgot what's the name of it. I think it's the Blue-Eyed Samurai, which is on Netflix. I want to get my Netflix subscription renewed, and I want to see Blue-Eyed Samurai. That looks really dope. I saw a couple of things on Netflix I think were really cool. I know The Last Airbender is supposed to be Avatar. The Last Airbender is supposed to come out there too. I think that's the only thing that right now it's longer. It's been out for a longer time though. That has a higher viewing than Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon is the hottest thing other than Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. So that's really dope. I can't wait for Zack Snyder's movie though. I'm really excited for it. But that's what I got for you guys tonight. It's now 1. I've spent almost 2 hours talking here. I knew it was going to take long because I had so much to say. But let's see if I left out anything here. Nope. People are talking about the global South response. Well, we know that Yemen kind of jumped in the thing with the drones. Hezbollah kind of jumped in. They're watching, they're monitoring the situation because if the United States doesn't step up, they're probably going to step up. They already had their conference, they spoke with each other and everything. So, you know, a lot of them don't want to go to war, but they're not going to allow these people to die like that. And Israel's been so callous. They've just been raiding. They've just been breaking all kinds of laws. It's just been, the IDF has been doing a horrible job, man. It's just a horrible job. Talking about you want to get Hamas. Come on, man. Like, try to make peace. Try to make peace. You know? So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I am Christ and Disciple. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was fun for me to talk with you guys. So again, BDS, you can check out Boycott, Divest, and Sanction Movement. There's a movement out there. It's been around for a while. There's certain people, prominent people in it. And if you feel your conscience, your heart is going, there's a lot of documentaries you can also look at concerning what's happening in the West Bank and in Gaza. There are a couple documentaries. If you guys want to find out more about that, you can by contacting me, and I'll share as much information as I can about this thing. But suffice it to say, it's been on my mind. It's been bothering me. I've been praying about it. I've been praying for the people in Palestine. I'm not praying so much for the people in Israel, except for the hostages that they be released. I'm hoping that happens. But with respect to Israel, they're not suffering like the Palestinians right now. The Palestinians are suffering. This is not even like some people said, it's not really a war, but it is a war. But it's not like a, like one country has an airport or military or something. No, it's kind of like a scrap together military. And, the people are not protected. So most of the time when, the IDF attacks them, citizens are just taken, they just get pulverized. Not cool. It's not cool at all, especially with all these children. So, if you have concern for the hostages, which are people too, right? I'm concerned for the hostages. I want to see them alive. More so, you should have concern for people who are oppressed under horrible conditions and getting killed out, and it's particularly children. I mean, come on now. So that's what I got to say for you guys. You guys have a good night. I am Christ, I am disciple. I'm sorry about the cursing, but sometimes I do curse. It is what it is. You guys have a good night. God bless you all. Peace to you guys. We'll try and see peace in the Middle East, particularly peace at Israel's end. It's their time to be peacemakers and stop killing these people and stealing their land. Come on, stop it, man. Come on. Grow up. I'm catch you guys later.